What is up, sexy people? It is Dave, it is Duncan, back from Metal Epidemic for another album review. And for today's review, ladies and gents, we have been checking out the new album from Norwegian smash metalists MAKTKAMP. The band's new album, Mental Razzia, will be released on February 14th. So, after the release of their debut EP in 2020, MAKTKAMP have been extremely productive, releasing 2 full-length albums and a concept EP. Now with album 3 ready to fire, the band turn their gaze inwards and sheds the light to the dark internal MAKTKAMP, which means power struggle. Mental Razzia hears the band once again develop their sound, incorporating progressive elements in a musically two-faced display of power, where the darker elements grow darker and the gentler parts are even more polished. The album was recorded at Redline Studios with guitarist Marius Melby as studio tech and mixer of the album. So, we reviewed MAKTKAMP's debut album back in 2022.
Yeah, I didn't even know they had another album after that. So.
I know. E-Effect was the debut. And yeah, like yourself, I completely missed the album in between this one and the debut. But I think like when we spoke about the debut album, I think we all noted like, okay, these guys have got something, they've got potential. It'll be interesting to see like where they go next and what they do. And I think my actual words were, these guys are ones to watch.
I love it when we say that and then they come back and we were like, nah, no pressure.
I remember on the debut they had like a few elements of their sound that was like familiar. You could hear certain like influences coming through, but it was also like album number 1. So like very early in their career, but like it had a rawness and an energy that was very infectious. So I was really looking forward to hearing what was going to come next. I did check out their 2023 album. It's called Caps Lock Woke Rock, which was another very like strong release. You could hear that little bit of refinement, between the debut and that album, and more of the band's kind of personality starting to come through. Again, like a big ton of big melodic guitar licks and that really cool mix of like harsh and raspy vocals and melody. Probably slightly less of the kind of black metal influence musically on that release. There wasn't so many blast beats in that one, so it kind of maybe felt more geared towards the rock and kind of punk side of things. On E-Effect, we mentioned the influence of one particular band.
I can't remember this at all.
Another Norwegian band called Kvelertak.
Yes.
And you could still hear it like transferring through into Caps Lock Woke Rock on certain tracks. You could like that twin guitar harmony was never far away. But I think what I would say is I think this album might have the least amount of Kvelertak influence so far. It's still there. You can still hear it.
Not a bad thing either, to be fair. You know what I mean?
But I didn't have moments where I was like, oh, this is just like pure unadulterated Kvelertak worship. Yeah. Like whereas like E-Effect definitely had that. This album hears some new ideas. Firstly, I think I would say it's a touch darker and more progressive than we've heard them in the past. That first track, Demon Amok, it still has that kind of feisty kind of punk rock feel and the energy, but the guitar chords are leaning towards something a little bit more kind of sinister, and much more kind of elaborate than we've heard from MAKTKAMP. It was actually giving me a little bit of a Tool vibe on that first track. I was like, okay, the rhythm and the kind of maybe like the flexibility of the track, I was like, that's a little bit Tool-esque on this, but I'm not hating it, so let's keep going. Vocally, where before we got like that Scandi kind of punk melody infused with like the kind of raspy blackened screams, on the album opener here we're getting like deep growls on this one. So like Kjetil, the vocalist, he's like started to kind of tweak things as well vocally. Actually, the first track doesn't have a huge amount of melody. on that Demon Amok. There's a little bit of light cleans kind of coming in the background, but it's fairly minimal just to kind of kick things off. However, MAKTKAMP are mixing things up on this release. And although the album does have like a darker edge to it in places, that catchy, like more infectious kind of hook side that they're known for is still found on this album. And track 2, Djevelhorn, is a short, kind of sharp injection of that into the album. It's much more kind of punk rock driven, plenty of harmonies, the vocal melody is out in front, but it kind of balances it with a bit of kind of rasp in the verses as well. Really cool track. Moving into the third track, which is Velkommen til Volds Monopol. I don't know.
Nailed it.
It's kind of like a mixture of the first two tracks. Like it's got like the punk swagger, but it's fused with that kind of darker edge again, and some more kind of progressive tinges in the guitar. The tempo and the rhythm kind of vary, like from that kind of like upbeat kind of punk, but it's got the kind of slow kind of mid-pace kind of grooves as well. Then they move into like full-on blast beats as well on the track. Again, like a really like attention-grabbing track. While that was happening on the first like 3-4 tracks, I was like, right, this is really cool, but the vocals are fucking great on this.
Yeah,
like
really
I think Kjetil has gotten even better over the last couple of years. His style has really expanded, like his range is broader. The harmonies on that track are fucking outstanding, like really good. And I love that they do a bit of kind of like overlaying with like harmonies, and there's the kind of savage scream happening as well at the same time. A really cool contrast. And the album just kind of continues to flex all those different styles and variations on them. I think what I was most impressed with on this release was just how slick they now sound. Like coming from that debut to now is like unbelievable. The blend they've got on this, between that kind of the dark and light, it really kind of draws you in. I was listening to it, I was like, I'm kind of getting the same kind of feeling I got when I was listening to like the last Ishan album, where it's like, okay, it's not on that same level musically, obviously, but just the feel, the kind of aura of it, it was just kind of giving me that kind of, the contrast was great. I thought it was really cool to hear them weave between both sides of it. I think track 4, where they give you like much more kind of lightness in the lead work. There's much more kind of positive sound on that track. Some of it sounds a bit kind of like post-rock kind of esque as well. It's really kind of ethereal sounding, but it's coupled with a lot of really cool offbeat kind of rhythms as well. It's not just all like kind of punk rock sounding the whole way through, and it just breaks the track up really nicely. Again, vocal harmonies were just brilliant. Vocal harmonies on that track actually felt a little bit kind of proggy, like kind of retro prog. Not like a massive jump away from some of the harmonies you heard on like the last Crust album. Like it was just very well placed. And the more I got into this album, the more impressed I was, to be honest. I think just how much they've grown really since 2022. Their personality on this release is just way bigger than before. I kind of felt like this is the first time I've had more of a kind of understanding of who they are as a band and what they're capable of. Tracks like Permafrost or Trauma Junkie were just like all personality. They showed that those tracks actually showed off a really kind of heavier side of the band, where it was a lot of it was kind of like a Norwegian kind of death and roll kind of infused through a lot of it, where you're getting like melody in the lead work and vocal harmonies, but it's got this really gutsy metallic guitar. Almost kind of like sitting on death metal-esque, but it's just kind of like punctuating it along the way. But that was really cool. I think I said on the review of E-Effect that it was a bit of a toe tapper of an album. And Mental Razzia still has that hook. It still has those catchy moments, but I feel like this has much more depth than that release. I think it's made the MAKTKAMP sound much more interesting to listen to, and made them sound more individual. I enjoyed the debut, but it wasn't an album like I felt like I needed to come back to, because I kind of got everything I needed from it, in the first few listens. I've already listened to Mental Razzia more times than E-Effect, just because there's so much more interesting elements and layers to come back to, and styles that they're pulling together. And most importantly, I think that the strength of the songwriting here just brings you back for more repeat listens. I think one of our slight gripes on E Effect was it was maybe 1 or 2 songs too long, and I think that album was like 36 minutes, and I think you actually said on that review this should have been 30 minutes long. This album should be 30 minutes. Well, they've come back with Mental Razzia, and this is 30 minutes long. It's like fucking bang on. It's the perfect length. Like 9 tracks, doesn't feel a second too long. It's just like perfect runtime. Production wise, again done by Marius and the band, and you can hear even in the production they made small tweaks as well. I think this is slightly less produced, if that makes sense, than E Effect. And that album wasn't overproduced at all. But Mental Razzia is marginally heavier in the production. It's not quite as shiny. Like if E Effect was like sitting around a campfire with marshmallows, then Mental Razzia would be like the embers of like a burning church or something. It's just like it's bigger, it's darker, it's a little bit more kind of charred sounding. But I really liked that. Again, it had a bit of personality to the production, which I really enjoyed. This is exciting again, like another band that are just like continuing to elevate and push their sound. Yeah, I thought this was great. I really enjoyed this one. What about yourself? What did you think of Mental Razzia?
Yeah, so when you sent this through, I was super excited because I do occasionally dip back in on that 2022 release. I never listened to it in entirety. It's one of those, like as you mentioned there, one of my gripes was I felt like it was a lethargic element that cropped in the later part of the album where I just kind of felt like I know what you're doing it really, really well. You're just doing like maybe 1 or 2 tracks too long now. But there's a couple of tracks in that are still like absolute rippers for me. Especially if you're working out, you're doing anything like that. You need something to give you like a steroid injection. Like their songs are just so like amped up. To me, what MAKTKAMP have done here is kind of similar to what like a band like Godmother have done, where on every release subsequently, I just feel like there's a new, bigger, meaner, smarter, leaner version of that band developed every single time. And obviously, I'm missing the album in between. But as soon as Demon Amok kicked in, I was like, this is tearing up. As an opener, just a huge, big old chuggy riff. It reminded me a little bit of there's a band called For the Imperium, who had this sound which was kind of little bit to had some of the quirk of like a Dog Fashion Disco or a Dillinger Escape Plan, but also like a dose of industrial and that Scandi sound. It kind of had like a just really, really, really chuggy Scandi guitar, but there was all these slides and weird like all that stuff, and I was like, it's fucking amazing. But like you, as soon as the vocals kicked in, I was like, did they have a guest on this or something? Because it was just so fucking savage, just really, 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 really intense. And what I realised while listening to that is all the things I kind of expect from their sound in the way of massive anthemic choruses weren't in it, and I didn't miss it. But you're rewarded pretty much on that second track because it comes in and it sounds like fucking Aha's guesting on it. It's huge sounding. They're a really exciting band. Like they're really, really exciting because they can do so many things and they can do them so well. So if you want that kind of snarlier, like you see, less blackened nowadays, but stuff that's ebbing on the realms of something that could go blackened, they nail that. If you want 70s widdly riffs, they can do that with their eyes closed. But when I found I was kind of almost caught off guard is track 5 into track 6. Track 5 is essentially an instrumental track that leads into track 6. So you've got Aura Misery into Permafrost. Those songs, it sounds so fucking huge. And it just like incredible sounding track, and you're now in the back half of the album at that point. Like you're swinging into what we would generally, that's where bands go a little bit weird to take their foot off the pedal. And I thought Permafrost was going to be possibly the high watermark for this until Trauma Junkie kicked in. Its chorus is fucking absolute earworm chef's kiss magic. Like just so huge sounding, so effortless. proggy, but not in a pretentious way. Just really, 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 really good. And then, by Jove, the album closes super fucking strong as well. There ain't a bad song on here, like at all, even a little bit. I love that Kvelertak sound is still, it's still there. Hard to shake off because they weren't the first band to do it, but they are considered the pioneers of that kind of black rock and roll kind of sound, that Scandi thing that every band in their rant does from that part of the world.
Yeah.
And yes, that first album, those songs that sounded like it could have been a B-side. On this here, it's the elements that are used just right, and it might be on a guitar riff, but not the vocals joining the guitar riff, or it might be on a vocal hook. The guitars aren't doing something that band would do, so they're kind of smartly using that influence as a singular element as opposed to a sound on a song. So I really like that. Production in this is fucking great, and amazing that they have that in house. I would never go to someone else. I think you've got to remember as well that they're producing, but they're obviously also arranging their songs as well. So they're not getting that feedback of a producer saying that's too long, that's too short. It'd be better if you did this twice. So they are in control of that entire vision, and they don't put a foot wrong here. Yeah, I thought this was fucking awesome, like absolutely awesome, and very much like yourself, I've kind of spun it to death already.
Yeah.
Oh, like into double figure listens already on this one because it is short. It's half an hour. You can do a half an hour album, and it's a half an hour with no filler.
Yeah.
All killer, and you will smiling all the way through it. And this is like the very definition of an album that makes you want to throw devil horns, like just inexplicably to people around you, make them uncomfortable. It's really, 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 really fucking good. And once again, I still don't think we've seen the best of this band. Like this is so in the space of 4 years, they've done 3 albums and 2 EPs. So they've not taken time to sit back and smell the roses yet.
No.
These guys could be fucking huge. They really, really, really could be.
Yeah.
So yeah, another amazing Norwegian band. Surprise, surprise. This is fucking great.
Yeah. Nice. Final thing, scores for Mental Razzia. I mean, this excites me. I feel like this is MAKTKAMP making a statement, putting their own stamp on things. I think if they just keep moving in this direction, they're just going to get bigger, pushing the limits, expand the sound. Yeah, this is great. I'm going to go 4.5 out of 5. Like, super, super strong album. I expect to come back to this a lot. What about yourself? What are you thinking?
Oh, we are twinning up a lot tonight, my buddy. 4.5 for me. I think I gave the previous one a 4. This is definitely an improvement on that, but I'm leaving that 0.5 because I still think there's an album above this. I don't think we're that far away from it. This is great. Like if you're listening to us as a collection in a week of things dropping, if there's one album you check out from the group that we recorded wearing the same clothes we're wearing right now, it's this one. This one is the one I've been spinning the most. So.
Nice. MAKTKAMP Mental Razzia out on February 14th. Links below to the band, to the pre-order. Check it out, have a listen, see what you think, let us know. That is the review. Thanks for checking it out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.